Hey everyone, what's going on? Today is February 18th. It's Tuesday, and I'm a little late for this review. It's been a crazy beginning of the week for me, very busy. But Sunday, we had the second episode of Walking Dead's return since the 2 month hiatus from the finale last year. It was the 10th episode of the season titled Inmates, and, well, just like last week, it starts off right after the events of the governor destroying the prison and Herschel dying, unfortunately. And it starts off, we see Daryl and Beth all alone, running in the forest from walkers and everything. And it's actually very interesting because we hear Beth as the narrator, and she's narrating in her own point of view when she was writing in her diary, actually. And we hear a quote from a familiar event before the mid-finale from Beth. And it seems like when she was narrating while she was writing the diary, it was, maybe a day or two before when the governor came crashing through the prison gates. So that was actually very interesting to see how the narration went on through the beginning of the episode. And, of course, Beth, she wants to go out and look for survivors. She wants to find her sister. She wants to find everyone else. And of course, just like Carl, Daryl has lost a lot of hope around their lives. He doesn't think there's any survivors. But of course, Beth is not. She's not going to lose hope because that's just who she is. But Daryl, of course, he's got to protect her and help her out. And along the way, while tracking footprints and looking for their friends, they actually find some walkers that are eating some dead corpses along some train tracks. And after taking these guys out, and Daryl always being a badass with his crossbow, there's a big black shoe next to one of the corpses, and we don't know who it is, but for some reason Beth just breaks down crying. Seems like she maybe recognizes whose shoe it is, but we find out later whose it actually is. Because in this episode, it's actually very interesting. We see the episode split into 4 different perspectives, and some of the perspectives are actually not physically interacted, but with some of the stuff that happens in each scenes, they're connected to other people's roads through the episode, so to speak. If you've seen the episode, you know what I'm talking about. If not, go watch the episode. So, as I said, after these events with Daryl and Beth, they switch perspectives to the little girls, the younger girls, Lizzie and Mika, and they're actually being guided and protected by Tyrese. Big, huge black guy. He's another badass. They're accompanied by someone else. I'm not going to say who. Go watch the episode if you don't know who I'm talking about. And if you know who I'm talking about, we all knew. We all knew that she was there. Anyway, so Tyrese actually hears some people in trouble with some walkers, and he actually wants these little girls to be safe. So he leaves them alone, back to back, to, keep them from harm's way. And Tyrese finds these people in trouble next to some train tracks. So we see the interactions of these storylines. We now know who's these dead corpses who they were. And Tyrese is helping these guys out, and, you know, in the midst of killing these walkers, he's smashing some heads in, and all of a sudden, we get a surprise return from a very familiar character. You know, I didn't think we were going to see this character come back so soon, but I'm glad they are back. So, it was a great surprise, and I jumped in my chair when I saw them come back onto the screen. And then one of the guys that Tyrese was helping out, you know, he got bitten, but one of his last words was, you know, follow these train tracks and you can find a safe haven. And apparently this safe haven is at the end of the tracks called Terminus. And, you know, who knows what could be at the end of this road. Hopefully something good comes out of it. Anyway, as I said, perspective changes. We go to Maggie, Sasha, and the other smaller black guy that we were introduced to last year. Honestly, I forget his name, I'm sorry. But they are looking for the bus that left the prison in the midst of all the chaos that happened with the final battle at the prison. Because Maggie believes that Glenn could still be a survivor on that bus. As always, all these people are skeptical of any survivors because of how much death there was at the prison. But they do find the bus, but of course it's full of walkers, but there's no Glenn. So that wasn't really a surprise to me, because I know he's not going to die anytime soon. But while taking out all these walkers, Maggie she's in her own state of mind right now of so many emotions, because especially after what happened with her whole family basically at the prison. Glenn is missing, could be dead. Her father was just beheaded by the governor. She's pissed, she's upset, she's in shock, and nearly gets her killed. And her other friends killed. Like I said, nearly, so they're not. So seeing that Glenn is not on the bus, she knows that he could still be alive. We switch perspectives again in the episode, and it goes to Glenn. And he's actually still at the prison, and he actually got off the bus before it left. And he actually, we see him, and he actually has a bunch of supplies, and he puts on that ride gear that we saw him in last year. Puts it on, and, you know, he uses it to try to escape the prison. Along the way, he gets help from Tara, the one gay girl who was part of the governor's group. And, you know, he almost forces her to try and help him find Maggie and just get out of the prison. But along the way, trying to escape, they're stopped by some other walkers, and Glenn uses up so much energy where he actually just knocks unconscious, and Tara saves his life, bashing a walker's head in, and we're introduced actually to 3 new characters after they show up at the very end of the episode. And that's going to be to what next week's episode is all about. We meet a guy named Abraham Ford, and it was released everywhere online, on Twitter and Facebook, that these new characters were coming into the show. And it looks like Ford wants to help Glenn and Tara, but he doesn't want to help them find their friends. So who knows how it's going to happen or how it's going to turn out, but hopefully we all the survivors get back together. So that's it for me. I can't wait for next week's episode, the 11th episode, titled Claimed. So we'll see how that works out. So I'll see you all later. Have a good day. Bye.